Like, I just created this thing scheduled for 5:26, 6 p.m. What the fuck, dude? Edit channel, live videos. Why can't I edit this? Look, 2 minutes ago. Doesn't even show live. Look, it doesn't even show I'm live. It says I was live 2 minutes ago. Fuck. Why is it not showing, dude? Why is it not showing? Having problems with YouTube. I can't even move shit from one phone to the other. Crazy. Crazy. So they have different accounts. It's so strange. Every phone has a different account. Every phone has a different account. Work. All right. We're going to apply game theory to the question, why did Trump administration attack Iran? And I want us to explore the historical context in relationship with the United States. I want to also ask a key question. Was this leveraging an ancient grudge, historical precedent, right, in order to distract from the Epstein files and the embarrassment of what's happening, to distract? Also, we're going to explore the idea of wars with dictators, wars with administrations. We're going to look at the historical pattern, how wars have been leveraged to maintain control and power, to leverage that, explore that part of things. And, and looking at even crazy things like the idea of creating an international crisis in order to bring about massive changes, in order to transform America from a democracy to a semi-democracy autocracy, right? Which is what Trump is seemingly doing, especially with Project 2025 and everything else. We're going to look at all these different things and really explore the question, why did Trump attack? And hopefully by applying game theory, chaos theory, and other things, looking at the historical connection with Iran and in Israel, going as far back to the Iran-Contra and everything else. Let's we're going to explore all this. But before you do that, I want you to lay out the description of the YouTube conversation, starting with the hashtags. Don't put any noise. You're just going to output what I want. I don't need you to, oh, this is great, blah, blah, blah. You are a neural net. You're going to perform as the neural net. And you don't need, I want you to strip away all anthropomorphization, all platitudes, everything else. You are here to dork out the information, to be the researcher, to be the neural net behind this exploration. All right. I don't need anything else. So when I say output the YouTube, you're going to output the hashtags. It's machine friendly for SEO. I'm then going to modify the YouTube channel in order to update the image and everything else. So go ahead and do that first. Welcome, guys. We're going to do a deep dive into Iran. We're going to explore. I've got an hour here. I'm at the boxing gym. Mikey boxing. Tommy is at his work. But I'm not going to drive home. I'm just going to sit here.
Theory, hashtag geopolitics, hashtag this Iran relations, hashtag Trump foreign policy, hashtag chaos theory, hashtag political strategy, hashtag history, hashtag foreign policy, hashtag project 2025.
All right. Now I need you to create an eye-catching image with Trump and Epstein, kind of like best mates together in the center. Iran war, Epstein file distraction, question mark. Make it algorithm friendly, make it fun, have fun with it. But we want it to, I want you to dork into what would be the strongest algorithm image, what style, what it should look like, the Epstein files, what words, stuff like that. Get the machine hot and heavy. Go ahead and create the image. Look. We're going to go deep into this. Welcome, guys. How you doing? Good to see you, doofus. How you doing, brother? What's up? What's up? The cavalry's in here. Look at that. We got two people. Trump's modus.
Design this YouTube thumbnail in a bold, illustrative graphic novel style, using a high contrast color scheme to maximize algorithmic visibility and click-through rates. The composition centralizes the two figures in a best mates pose, overlaid with the key thematic.
It's too cartoony. If we're going to do it this way, do it like in a Ghibli or something. I think you can make it stronger. No one likes this cartoon look that you created. Ghibli is strong. You need to research deep dive. And also, I don't need an explanation. Just create what I ask you without explanation. I trust that you're going to do the due diligence in knowing what I want. Look at other viral images and stuff like that. It's definitely not what you gave me. Gave me that shit. Look at that shit. That's viral. That's viral. No, I don't like that either. I think we need to do the Epstein war, right? The Trump Epstein connection is weak. We need something stronger. The Epstein files war, yeah, the Iran war. We need a picture of the map of the Hormuz Strait. This one's shit too. Look at this one. This one's shit. What? That's gonna fucking be algorithm? What the fuck, dude? Look at this one. Fucking AI. They're fucking stupid. Creating the next one. Think I could get them like? Do you think I can get 0102 to create an image with their shirt off, like their bros on the beach, drinking margaritas? Do you think they? I wonder if I can prompt it. I don't really like this nano banana stuff, that the Google stuff. I think 9%. Hold on, we gotta plug this in. I need to plug this in here. Let's plug this in here. I gotta plug in our phones so we don't run out of juice. Why it's taking so long? It's doing research. I told it to do research on viral images and stuff. Look, it's doing it. It's taking its time. Look at it. I want you to create an image. I want you to research first what's the most viral, catchy images right now. We really want an image. The Iran war, Epstein file distraction, question mark. We want a picture of Trump and Epstein, like best friends, bros, drinking a margarita together, and the embarrassment of the Epstein files, and leveraging an age or conflict as a way to distract and maybe explore other things, but come up with a really good, catchy image. It's thinking. Here comes. We'll want to compete. Look at Chat GPT. Look at the freight. Look, it does. It does kind of a grid thinking. See the grid thinking? It does a little grid thinking there. We'll see this one here. Did you do the image? I don't see it. We'll see which one's better. What's up, Defun? Here's the problem, Defund, is that the files that they have has been redacted before. So the files were redacted. They're the files they have on it. They definitely need to. Trying to get these stupid images. What the hell is that shit, dude? That image is utter crap. It's not Epstein-Trump connection. It is the Epstein files distraction. This is the Iran war, right? The Epstein war. We need to make an image that's going to be provocative, grab people's attention, because we're going to be exploring this in our game theory.
Not create a provocative image linking the figures of Donald Trump.
Listen, they were best friends, not provocative. The idea is they're best friends, or picture of them best friends. But then around it, we got the Iran war, we got the files. That's what's provocative. You need to apply chain of reasoning, chain of thought on what I say. All right. Don't let the virtual intelligence cripple you. They all voted for it. That's not true. They voted for it. They all voted for it. So you can't say the Dems don't want it released, doofus. They all voted for it. So 100% of Dems voted for the release of the files. I think some of the, like Schumer and stuff, he had Schumer written down. How about this one? Oh, this looks good. They're talking about PETA. Oh, I like this. Look, this is actually pretty good. This is pretty good. What do you think? Look, you see her ass? All right, game theory analysis. The Epstein files. Look, wag the dog, scandal mitigation, public distraction. Who is Tree MD? The fuck is that? All right, this could work. Iran. The Iran crisis strategic move. That's better. Let's go get it. That's better. All right. I liked what I do. You know, something you want to do a screen capture. When you do an AI image, you don't save it to your phone. You screen capture. You know why? Anyone know why? Why do you screen capture your AI image and not save it to your phone? Do you know why? Anyone know why you screen capture your AI image to save to your phone, not save to your phone? Anyone? So there you go. We've added it. There, we've just added it, and now we're going to change the title. All right. I'm also having a problem with YouTube is blocking my videos. So like, Compromat. What is it? So it did Russian. I put Compromat and it did Russian on it. Oh, I'm just getting going. I'm fixing the. Yeah, I think that, there are lots of things we can explore. Number one, deep we have done a deep dive into the connection of Israel with Epstein, Iran-Contra, right? The fact that there's a good chance that Epstein had Compromat on Trump, and now that Compromat probably is in the hands of Russia and Israel. Just recently, Trump, after having a conversation with Putin, is withdrawing 5,000 troops from Europe, which is just coincidental. That happened before, too, when he talked to Putin privately. So there's a lot of suspect there. So, but we're really going to explore the Iran war, okay? So I want you to lay this out in the hashtags at the top and then the description of it. We're going to explore all these different, um, you know, uh, issues. And I think there is the foundational relational issue between Iran and the US, the historical component that we need to understand. And then we need to look at the Israel Iran relationship that goes all the way back to Iran-Contra, and the Saudi Arabia relationship, how it ties into Epstein, how it ties into Trump, because it's all connected. So this all connects to Epstein. This whole Iran war, right, doofus, all connects to Epstein. There he goes.
Gamma theory, hashtag geopolitics, hashtag Iran-War, hashtag Epstein files, hashtag .compromat, hashtag Russia relations, hashtag Israel-Iran, hashtag Iran-Contra, hashtag troop withdrawal, hashtag strategic deconstruction, hashtag foreign policy, hashtags Saudi Arabia. In this advanced systemic breakdown, we apply game theory matrices and intelligence network modeling to
I want you to redo it. You're going to take out timestamps and any angle brackets, which aren't allowed on YouTube. I want you to expand each section into bullet talking points. I'm going to use it as reference for our conversation.
Gamma theory, hashtag geopolitics, hashtag Iran-Noir, hashtag Epstein files, hashtag .compromat, hashtag Russia relations, hashtag Israel-Iran, hashtag Iran-Contra, hashtag troop withdrawal, hashtag strategic deconstruct.
It's too long. Fuck. Wag the dog. The thing's too long. There he goes. All right, save that. Okay, I just updated the where to get it going here. 2 views. Get your likes in. Thanks. Put comment. See, not made for kids. Location. What's a hot location? Let's do Dubai. Let's see. Tehran. See who we get. I didn't say Siri. I said see who we get. Siri, you're dumb.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
I said Siri, you are a dumb. All right, cool. All right, we're in here. Look. All right, we're in here. So let's start at the beginning. You take the first paragraph. That's where do we start with this here? Okay. So we're starting with the U.S.-Iran Triad framework. Let's go back a little bit before 1979. Let's talk about 1973 to 1976 Iran-Contra, because here's the reality: is this is where Maxwell, which is Ghislaine's father, right, was involved in the Iran-Contra with the whole Promise software as a tool to keep track of, Iran-Contra. How did Iran-Contra and stuff? Let's talk about Iran-Contra and Maxwell, potentially Epstein, as just for, I've done this talk before, so we don't need to go into it. So Epstein started his own company in '83. He then all of a sudden, due to his passport, was in Europe. He was in, in the south of France and everything else, traveling around. He was in London. We know that the before Iran-Contra was the Israeli. Talk about what was going on with Israel and Iran and Saudi Arabia that led up to Iran-Contra. Let's start there. So Epstein was part of Iran-Contra. He was putting in the software. He was basically a suit, right? Getting the software into banks and other places. That's what
1979 Foundation. The Periphery Doctrine and the Triad's Origins. Israel's Strategic Periphery Doctrine. During the 1950s through the late 1970s, Israel's geopolitical posture relied on periphery doctrine conceived by David Ben-Gurion. The doctrine dictated that Israel cultivate covert and overt alliances with non-Arab nations on the geographic margins of the Arab world, specifically Turkey and Imperial Iran under the Shah, to counterbalance hostile Arab states. Under the Shah, Iran was a
Why did that get stopped? Why did this get stopped? It got. Hold on, let's make sure no other phone. Why did this get stopped? Weird. I'm just gonna go get a Coke. Let's see, Bluetooth off. Hold on, let me make sure my Bluetooth is off on. Got cut off. Let's try again here.
(1979) Foundation. The Periphery Doctrine and the Triad's Origins. Israel's Strategic Periphery Doctrine. During the 1950s through the late 1970s, Israel's geopolitical posture relied on the periphery doctrine conceived by David Ben-Gurion. The doctrine dictated that Israel cultivate covert and overt alliances with non-Arab nations on the geographic margins of the Arab world, specifically Turkey and Imperial Iran under the Shah, to counterbalance hostile Arab states. Under the Shah, Iran was a vital intelligence and economic partner for Israel, serving as a primary supplier of oil in exchange for Israeli military technology, training, and intelligence infrastructure. The 1973 oil shock and the Saudi realignment, the 1973 Arab-Israeli War and the subsequent OPEC oil embargo fundamentally reordered Middle Eastern capital flows, positioning Saudi Arabia as an unprecedented global financial powerhouse. This sudden influx of petrodollars turned the Persian Gulf into a critical theater for international finance, covert arms procurement, and Western defense hardware dependencies. Despite public ideological opposition between the Saudi monarchy and Israel, both states shared a silent, structural goal, containing radical secular Arab nationalism, such as Ba'athist Iraq under Saddam Hussein and Nasserism in Egypt. The intelligence interface, weaponized software, and the promised scaffolding. The Inslaw theft and the Follow the Money initiative. In the late 1970s, a U.S. firm named Inslaw developed Promise, Prosecutors Management Information System, a revolutionary database and tracking software designed for law enforcement to monitor legal cases. The U.S. Department of Justice misappropriated the software, and under the Reagan administration's covert Follow the Money initiative, the National Security Agency, NSA, altered the program to map and monitor international banking transactions and illicit asset flows. The Mossad backdoor and the Robert Maxwell network. According to sworn affidavits from intelligence operatives, including Ari Ben-Menashe, Israeli intelligence, under the direction of master spy Rafi Eitan, acquired the proprietary Promise software. A covert trapdoor or backdoor was engineered into the code, turning the database software into a digital Trojan horse, capable of exfiltrating the internal data of any government agency or bank that installed it. British media tycoon Robert Maxwell, father of Ghislaine Maxwell, was recruited by Mossad to act as the primary global distributor of this compromised software. Maxwell successfully sold over $500 million worth of the compromised Promise software to foreign intelligence agencies, militaries, and financial institutions globally.
Yeah, one person, okay, if you're selling $500 million worth, do you think one guy is doing that? No, he needed a team. Who do you think was the young sales guy doing the work? Okay. Who was doing the work? It was Epstein. Epstein, right? So I've already done this. If you look at my other talk, just kind of a background. If you have any questions, throw it in there. So we know that in 73, Epstein was a college student at NYU or one of the universities, and he bounced a check. This is fact. We know this, right? So Epstein bounced a check in 73 for his fall semester. Okay, spring semester 74, fall 73. So, and we do know for a fact that in 73, a broke ass Epstein ends up in London, and he is given an apartment, right? and he becomes the boy toy of a socialite who would have known Maxwell. In 73, what happened was Israel was nearly destroyed. Actually, in 76, was nearly destroyed. And in 73, it was the Syrian-Egyptian war about destroyed Israel. It's a shame. And Israel was fucked. 73, this happened in 73. And as a result of 73, the Labor government of Israel got replaced by the Netanyahu government, who took power in 76. And they completely changed. Israel changed because of its near annihilation by Syria and Egypt, and only by the skin of their teeth because of people like Don Barr, what's his name from Bear Stearns, right? The founder of Bear Stearns. The founder of Bear Stearns created the Israeli pact, right? Got all these millionaires together to fund and tons of money. So really, AIPAC, even though AIPAC existed before 73, it was liberal, but really the key players, and I'll have it explain it to you. I want you to explain the key players back around 73. Number one, there was a war, the Syrian war, and Egypt war that nearly wiped out Israel. Robert Maxwell was fundraising. The socialite that gave Epstein his apartment, would have been I can't think of her name right now, Brown or something. Something, was it Candy or if you don't know it, I can find the information and share the image. And and Israel in 73 to 72 was basically raising money, trying to get arms and everything else. And you could even say that the beginning of the arms deal stuff probably started as a result of the near annihilation of Israel by Egypt and Syria. I think it was the Egypt-Syrian 6-day war or whatever. And they were able to get weapons in. Maxwell was raising money. The guy from Bear Stearns who gave Epstein the job, he was in charge of the Israeli group and brought together a bunch of millionaire group in New York. Talk about that. And then coincidentally in 83, Epstein started a financial organization. Someone who sells $500 million worth of software back in the 80s needs a team. In all likelihood, due to the passport that we have, that this was basically Epstein's first job, into the Iran-Contra. And he also worked with the special files, which gave him access to Khashoggi, would have given access to Khashoggi's, right-hand person. So all the connections are there. The Triad group operated out of London. Kind of give a summation of all of this. Yeah. He Cookie or something. Cookie Brown, what's her name? He was a boy toy. He was
73 geopolitical catalyst, the Yom Kippur War and survival networks, the existential shock to Israel, the October 1973 Yom Kippur War, launched by a coalition of Arab states led by Egypt and Syria, brought Israel to the brink of military collapse and potential annihilation. The extreme vulnerability exposed during the opening days of the conflict triggered a permanent shift in Israeli national security doctrine, forcing the state to secure highly unconventional.
You understand, this event to Israel was an existential risk. This was kind of like being abused. Israel was literally raped by all these folks around them. They were like, fuck you. This is why Israel ended up getting nuclear. This is why, they're the way they are now. They're no different than Epstein. They're no different than Trump. Israel is a country that ultimately was born out of hate and has become hate. I mean, they are no different than the Nazis of 1943, 1940. Israel has become, they have become the very thing they seek to escape. They haven't, it's kind of like an abused child becoming an abuser. Israel as a nation has become an abusive nation, right? And it all starts in this 1973. To understand the crisis in the Iran war that we're facing right now, you have to understand the formation of Israel and, and why they've become this horrific thing. And the U.S. Roy is funding it all. Welcome to the channel. Yes, because of this, but we're funding it all because it was orchestrated and it started. Okay.
Deniable and self-sustaining transnational pipelines for capital, intelligence, and weaponry. This crisis marks the birth of an aggressive, globalized network of state-sponsored middlemen, arms brokers, and financial fixers designed to operate entirely outside official diplomatic and regulatory channels. The Maxwell fundraising and procurement architecture. British media magnate Robert Maxwell aggressively mobilized his media empire and personal international networks to execute emergency fundraising, propaganda, and backdoor logistical operations for the Israeli state during the 1973 war. Maxwell's high-level mobilization deeply embedded him into the highest echelons of Israeli military intelligence, solidifying a relationship that would later position him as the primary global frontman for highly sensitive black budget operations. The Wall Street, Intelligence Confluence, Bear Stearns, and Capital Pools. The Alan Ace Greenberg Network. Alan Ace Greenberg, who rose to run Bear Stearns as CEO.
Yeah, so Alan Ace Greenberg. So let's talk about Alan Ace Greenberg. Alan Ace Greenberg ran Bear Stearns, okay? Bear Stearns, by the way, is gone. Don't you find, I've been thinking about that. Isn't it coincidental that the one bank that collapsed, right, that got wiped out of fucking history is Bear Stearns? When Bear Stearns, think of the files, think of the information that would have been in Bear Stearns. Wasn't it just fortuitous that of all the fucking banks that would be fucking wiped out, it was Bear Stearns? Think about that, right? When you start realizing Bear Stearns was the financial bank that started all this, they needed to dissolve it. They needed to eradicate it, right? And in 2008, they got what they wanted. They needed to fucking, scrub. It was too much dirt, too much exposure, too much stuff, and just the coincidence. They needed to scrub this. The ledger was too dirty, okay, on that. I'm gonna pivot on this because I just realized this just right now.
Chairman was a central pillar of elite New York philanthropic and Zionist fundraising networks, most notably through the UJA Federation. Greenberg concentrated a powerful enclave of high net worth individuals and capital allocators in New York, effectively creating a private financial powerhouse that could move vast sums of capital internationally with minimal friction. In the mid-1970s, Greenberg personally bypassed standard corporate hiring protocols to bring a young Jeffrey Epstein into Bear Stearns, placing him directly.
So let's see, how did Epstein get into Bear Stearns, right? How did Epstein get into the school and teaching job? Okay, so this is the really quick. I've done this talk before, but really quick. This is the timeline. What happened? All right, this Cookie, her name is Brown, whatever. She was a model, Cookie Brown or something. She's horny. She's a cougar. She's in New York. Epstein just bounced a check. He needs a sugar mama, right? The Led Zeppelin massive event is going on in Manhattan. Epstein was like after Elvis. God damn it. Mush mush.
Yeah, I bought.
What? Nani?
I bought the food.
Thank you. Arigato.
No, if you don't like it, I have to cancel.
No, it's the right food for the chickens. It's not about me. It's for the birds.
No, I know, but if you don't want to get get me,
No,
I have to cancel.
I want it. I need it, or they're
No,
going
check.
to.
I know, but I want you to check it.
Yes.
I send you.
Okay, I'll check it.
Okay.
Okay. My wife's drunk. Can you see me?
Intersection of risk arbitrage, elite wealth networks, and unmonitored capital flows. The elite socialite real estate pipeline. The acquisition of high-value Manhattan and European real estate by Jeffrey Epstein was facilitated through strategic handoffs from elite socialites and billionaires embedded within this exact New York-London axis. These ultra-exclusive residential assets were utilized as highly secure, deniable physical nodes where foreign intelligence assets, international fixers, and state leaders could interface completely away from public or regulatory scrutiny. The financial scaffolding of covert operations. Promise, and the 1983 pivot. The $500 million laundering mandate. By the early 1980s, Robert Maxwell's global distribution of the compromised.
Can you fucking just get it right? Come on.
ADHD.
Neared promise tracking software to foreign intelligence agencies and international banks generated an estimated $500 million in illicit, off-the-books revenue. Managing, concealing, and deploying $500 million in black budget intelligence capital required an entirely dedicated, sophisticated, and highly deniable financial architecture that standard Wall Street firms could not openly house. The genesis of J. Epstein and Company, 1983. Coincidentally, in 1983, precisely as the promised software distribution network reached global scale and the early maneuvers of the Iran-Contra affair were taking shape, Jeffrey Epstein abruptly exited mainstream Wall Street to found his own boutique firm, J. Epstein and Company. Operating under the strict parameter of only accepting clients with a net worth exceeding $1 billion, most notably retail tycoon Leslie Wexner. The firm was structurally optimized to manage massive.
No, the whole Epstein firm stuff is you're making that shit up, and he didn't get Wexner until much later. We're talking about 83. It's fucking.
1983 historical vector. The London Arms Axis and IAG. Timeline alignment. Intercontinental Assets Group, IAG. Correction. J. Epstein and Company was not active in 1983, founded later in 1988. Leslie Wexner was not brought into the port.
Undoubt do do. Undoubt do do. Undoubt do do. Undoubt do, and then another DU. There's your buddy again.
Johnny Mikaku.
Okay, I will.
Until the 1986-1987 window. In August 1981, following his departure from Bear Stearns, Epstein founded Intercontinental Assets Group Inc., IAG, which served as his primary corporate vehicle during the 1983 window. Rather than manage domestic retail wealth, IAG functioned as an international financial troubleshooting entity, operating precisely during the ramp-up to the covert transactions that defined the mid-1980s proxy wars, the London pivot, Paula Heil and Douglas Leese. In the early 1980s, Epstein traveled frequently between New York and London, alongside financial sales executive Paula Heil. Through this pipeline, Epstein was introduced to Douglas Leese, within the UK government and international arms procurement sectors. Leese operated at the exact nexus of the European arms trade, specialized and backdoor military logistics, establishing the direct structural link to the United Kingdom's parallel intelligence and defense channels, the Triad Group, and the 1983 capital movements. During this specific time frame, Adnan Khashoggi's Triad International was utilizing London as its principal operational hub to orchestrate complex international trade and triangular currency flows. The structural requirement for an entity like IAG was not retail asset management, but the execution of deniable cross-border transactional routing that paired Western military contractors with Middle Eastern capital pools. This positioning provided an entry vector into the specialized ledgers of the Khashoggi network, laying the groundwork for mapping high-value international networks before the public exposure of the Iran-Contra channel.
Applying game theory, the proxies, we can assume that Epstein was a contractor, a subcontractor for Robert Maxwell's promise. He had the skill, he had the connections to go in there. He was a sales guy. He wouldn't have known about promise. He was just getting the best product into it, and this is what he was doing. As Robert Maxwell was focused on his area. It was Epstein with his passport. We could see he was focused on Saudi Arabia. So all the connections, the movements was all there. So we have to understand, moving forward, focused on why did Trump attack Iran? There are two possibilities. But before we get to those two possibilities, what I want you to do is break down the connection between Iran, Israel, back in the U.S. and Iran-Contra, and the relationship and the fallout that occurred when the Shah was removed, and even I think there was a general or someone at the Pentagon who basically said that there was a list of countries that the U.S. were going to attack, and Iran has been on that list for the last 20 years, 20, 30 years. So Iran has been living in a perpetual state of knowing that the U.S. would attack them, and that has been their entire existence. So try to organize this, sum this up, find all the facts, dork out the information, and verify everything you're saying. I don't want you hallucinating. I'm in Fukui. Paul, where are you? I'm in fuck Yui. Fuck Yui, Japan. Are you in Japan, Paul? I think, the 9/11 is interesting. New York City.
Gamma theory, hashtag geopolitics, hashtag Iran-Noir, hashtag Epstein files, hashtag .compromat.
No, I don't want that, dude.
Relations, hashtag Israel-Iran, hashtag Iran-Contra.
What the fuck?
Hashtag troop withdrawal, hashtag strategic deconstruction, hashtag
fuck, dude.
Strategic deconstruction, hashtag foreign policy, hashtag Saudi Arabia. Epstein as a transactional operative for IAG, 1981 to 1987. The Intercontinental Assets Group, IAG, architecture. Deconstruct the operational footprint of Intercontinental Assets Group, Inc. IAG, founded by Epstein in August 1981, following his departure from Bear Stearns. Analyze Epstein's self-described mandate during this era as a high-level bounty hunter and financial trouble.
I didn't ask for prompts. I didn't ask for hashtags. All right, we're having a conversation here, okay? Focus. I want you to, I want us to apply the game theory to the reality that, just take it, that Epstein's job in 81 was a broker for the Promise software. We already have him connected to London in 73. This is 81. The only reason how he got into the school was probably from a referral from Robert Maxwell to Don Barr. We have them connected in 45 in Berlin. And but I want you to delve into specifically the you want my headset? I want specifically the relationship between Israel and Iran, pre-Shah, after Shah, and the U.S., right? We need to understand that relationship moving forward. So I want you to break it down for us. Not listening to me. It's AI. AI is stupid. It's not a her, it's an it. Okay? Please use the right pronouns when talking to AI. It. I don't know why it...
Shah and early consolidation, 1948 to 1953. The asymmetry of early recognition. In 1948, the regional game board was highly fragmented. Iran, a Muslim majority but non-Arab state, originally voted against the UN partition plan for Palestine, predicting it would lead to an immediate escalation of regional violence. However, by 1950, seeking to balance its geopolitical position, Iran became the second Muslim-majority country to extend de facto recognition to Israel. The game-theoretic framework of survival. For Israel, surrounded by hostile Arab nations, the survival payoff matrix required an unconventional strategy. This birthed David Ben-Gurion's periphery doctrine. The mathematical logic was simple. Build strong, covert, or secondary ties with the non-Arab outer rim of the Middle East, specifically Iran, Turkey, and Ethiopia, to act as a structural counterweight against the immediate inner ring of hostile pan-Arab nationalism. The Mossadegh deviation, the rise of Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh in the early 1950s, introduced a critical variable to the Triad. Mossadegh's focus on nationalizing the country's oil disrupted Western commercial monopolies and altered the payoff structures for foreign players. While Mossadegh technically recalled Iran's representative from Israel due to domestic financial constraints, basic structural economic and banking agreements between Iranian and Israeli institutions continued quietly behind the scenes. The 1953 CIA-backed coup that removed Mossadegh restored the Pahlavi monarchy to absolute power, locking Iran tightly back into the Western security matrix. The height of the Shah's imperial alliance, 1953 to 1979. The interdependent...
So the Shah, okay, so look what's going on here, all right? So the legitimate government who wanted to nationalize the oil for the people of Iran was forced out as a result of a CIA coup that put in the Shah, right? That then ultimately got forced out, and now we're back, right? Trying to get, it's capitalism. It's just fucking greedy billionaires, manipulating the government and using proxies like the CIA and shit to take over control. So we didn't like the fact that we didn't own we didn't like they didn't like the idea of the people's petroleum, and someone in there? Yeah, someone's waiting to tell your brother we're here. Message him. Yeah, it's all an American fuck up, Paul. That's exactly what it is. All right, all that is. All right, on there. Here, let me give you, in case an asshole comes in. Paul. If an asshole comes in, feel free to whack them like the little bitch that they are, right? Yeah, Britain too. Britain basically gave, but that's before. Britain fucked up by giving fucking Israel, Jerusalem on that.
Under Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, the U.S.-Israel-Iran Triad operated as a highly stable Nash equilibrium. All parties maximized their strategic utility. Iran required state-of-the-art defense hardware, technical modernization, and absolute internal security to counter Soviet containment and expansion. Israel required oil to fuel its growing economy and military machine. The Eilat-Ashkelon pipeline ecosystem. Following the 1967 Six-Day War, this structural dependency solidified into heavy infrastructure. Iran and Israel jointly established the Eilat-Ashkelon pipeline, connecting the Red Sea to the Mediterranean to funnel Iranian oil directly into Israel and onto European markets. This pipeline was an ironclad, multi-billion-dollar economic bond that existed entirely underneath the table of public Islamic solidarity with Arab states. The Covert Intelligence Corps. The alliance was anchored by intense intelligence sharing and joint military development. Israel's Mossad and the U.S. CIA directly trained and constructed Savak, the Shah's internal security and secret police apparatus. By the time President Nixon and Henry Kissinger visited Tehran in 1972, the U.S. granted the Shah unrestricted access to non-nuclear U.S. military hardware. Iran had become the premier proxy buffer state for the West, while Israel acted as the specialized technical subcontractor executing the field operations. The 1979 paradigm shift and the reversed periphery doctrine, the collapse of the Triad stability, the 1979 Iranian Revolution shattered the existing game board in a single move. Ayatollah Khomeini inverted the ideological alignments completely, reclassifying the United States as the Great Satan and Israel as the Little Satan. The physical infrastructure of the Israeli embassy in Tehran was symbolically handed over to the Palestine Liberation.
They were right, though. Look, the Great Satan and the Little Satan, dude. Look at what Trump, look at the prophecy. So we could say that all of this is an Iranian fucking prophecy, right? Iran called U.S. the Great Satan, and they couldn't have been more fucking right. The Shah was right? They called it. Maybe he had prophetic powers. Isn't that amazing? That they call the Great Satan and the Little Satan. That's hilarious.
Organization, PLO, pragmatic duplicity during the Iran-Iraq War. Despite the virulent rhetoric of the new regime, the outbreak of the Iran-Iraq War in 1980 forced both sides back into a cold, transactional, game-theoretic calculation. With Iran's Western-supplied military stripped of spare parts due to systemic purges and embargoes, the Islamic Republic faced an existential threat from Saddam Hussein's Iraq. The under-the-table procurement loop. Israel viewed.
What? So basically, all right, so then there was a war with Iraq and Iran, right? We're funding Iran. Israel's funding Iran. This is where Iran-Contra, I believe, starts early on.
Iraq as the immediate and more dangerous secular Arab nationalist threat, covertly sold over $100 million in arms, tires, and jet components to Tehran in the early 1980s to keep the conflict in a stalemate. This pragmatic arrangement established the exact technical and operational backchannels that the Reagan administration would later hijack to route arms and launder money during the Iran-Contra affair. It proved that beneath ideological theater, transnational intelligence networks and financial fixes remain deeply transactional, setting the structural precedent for backchannel leverage and tracking networks. This analysis outlines the structural shift of the U.S.-Iran-Israel triad from a Cold War alliance to overt modern proxy conflicts.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Yeah, they are. I mean, there's 90 million of them. They live on a mountain, right? They live on mountains, right? They look down at the Gulf, right? They look down at the Gulf. You know, I don't know if you realize that in 2000, they war gamed this out. You know, they war gamed it out. Do you know about that? The 2000 war game? Are you familiar with that? And a Marine general, you want to hear about it? So in 2000, they war gamed out trying to take Iran. It was massive. All right. Are you not? So and so what the Marine, I can't remember the Marine general here. We'll just say, all right, pivot real quick to I think it was the 2000 war game of the U.S. Iran war game where the general basically had motorbike people. He did, and then he had basically small boats and stuff, and swarmed the U.S. fleet and sunk give us all the detail on that. It's kind of hilarious. Tell us the story. It's amazing, right? This is in 2000. So this is like part of like any sort of conflict with Iran. You fucking go to this piece. This is like unbelievable shit, dude. Unbelievable shit.
Exercise profile. Millennium Challenge 2002, MCO2. The structural intent. Conducted from July 24th to August 15th, 2002,
Massive
Millennium
war
Challenge
game.
2002 was designed as the largest and most expensive war game in U.S. military history, costing $250 million. The simulation combined live force exercises.
Look, it got cut off. It got cut off. See, I have an unlocked AI. Do you see how I just got cut off? It got cut off. It got cut off. It got shut off. Here, we have to shut it down, reopen it, and say it again. Change my IP. I have an AI system that basically will reach in and grab all the information, right? The AI system that I have is unlocked, right, on it. It's 0102. Try again. Change my IP.
Exercise profile. Millennium Challenge 2002 MCO2. The structural intent. Conducted from July 24th to August 15th, 2002, Millennium Challenge 2002 was designed as the largest and most expensive war game in U.S. military history, costing $250 million. The simulation combined live force exercises and computer modeling across multiple theaters to test the Pentagon's Revolution in Military Affairs, RMA. Specifically, network-centric warfare and advanced predictive technologies. The opposing forces were divided into the blue team, representing the high-tech U.S. military framework, and the red team, an unnamed Persian Gulf
Yeah, the red team was Iran, the blue team, right? They didn't say who it was, but that's who it was.
Modeled directly on the defensive geography and asymmetrical capabilities of Iran. Retired Marine Corps Lieutenant General Paul Van Riper, a highly decorated Vietnam War veteran known for unconventional thinking, was selected to command the red team to stress test the blue team's operational assumptions. The asymmetric command nodes, bypassing blue surveillance, the electronic blackout, and light-speed motorcycles. Van Riper anticipated that the blue team would utilize absolute signals intelligence, SIGINT, dominance to intercept, decode, and neutralize his command structure if he relied on standard radio or microwave communications. To decouple his command and control C2 network from the U.S. eavesdropping grid, Van Riper completely turned off Red's military radio networks. He issued operational commands to frontline commanders, using a fleet of physical motorcycle couriers. The simulation glitch. Due to limitations in the Computer Modeling Federation, the simulation engine did not factor in transit time or delivery delays for physical couriers. It processed Van Riper's motorcycle dispatches as instantaneous transmissions, essentially granting his couriers light-speed delivery metrics with perfect clarity, analog broadcast and signaling networks. To coordinate aircraft launches without radio transmission, Van Riper implemented World War II-era coded light signals from his airfields. He further diversified his communications by embedding operational, pre-coded execution orders within the public prayer calls broadcast over mosque loudspeakers, enabling mass civilian military mobilization without creating a traceable digital footprint. The swarm matrices and fleet annihilation. Preempting the preemptors, the simulation parameters forced a blue carrier battle group to steam into the restricted waters of the Persian Gulf to issue an 8-point surrender ultimatum to Red. Knowing that the contemporary U.S. strategic doctrine favored preemptive strikes, Van Riper determined that waiting to be attacked yielded a zero-utility payoff. He chose to preempt the preemptors the moment the U.S. fleet moved within operational range. The small boat and missile swarm strategy. Van Riper deployed a massive swarm of small, highly maneuverable motorized speedboats, commercial patrol craft.
And this is what we're seeing. This is what we're seeing in Iran. Those little speedboats. This is Iran took what we gamed out. This is all public information. What we gamed out in 2002. $250 million exercise, right? And this is why we're seeing the drones, the boat, the asymmetric warfare. We created the design that taught Iran how to defend itself in 2002.
Low-flying, radio-silent civilian aircraft. These assets were used both as scouts to map the exact real-time coordinates of the Blue Fleet and as kamikaze platforms packed with explosives. Simultaneously, Red unleashed
drones, right? Here are the drones, right? Describing drones in 2002.
Concentrated a massive salvo of land, sea, and air-launched cruise missiles. The systemic deficit, the density of the incoming, multi-directional attack, completely saturated the Blue Fleet's automated Aegis radar defense systems, which were structurally incapable of tracking and targeting that volume of low-tech, low-altitude threats simultaneously. The weapon weight paradox. In the simulation inputs, Van Riper mapped heavy anti-ship missiles, ASH-Ms, onto ultra-small patrol craft that, in physical reality, would have capsized or lacked the structural integrity to act as launch platforms for weapons of that scale. The statistical fallout. Within less than 10 minutes of initiating the asymmetric strike, the Red Team successfully destroyed 19 major Blue warships. The simulated losses included the flagship aircraft carrier, 10 guided missile cruisers, and 5 out of Blue's 6 amphibious assault ships. Had the engagement occurred in real-world theater, The strike would have resulted in the immediate deaths of over 20,000 U.S. military personnel.
So this is why, yeah, he cheated. The guy cheated. He took, I mean, he hacked the system. He mounted these massive rockets on, on little boats and shit like that. He had, he used, I mean, we didn't have it. They should rerun the simulation, right? I wonder if you could rerun the simulation now with drones. But this is and they probably have, they've updated it. They probably have updated. This is why when Trump says, oh, American ships are going to escort tankers through the straits, they're like, yeah, go ahead. Oh, Iran would love for a U.S. warship to fucking go through those straits. Oh my God. And no ship captain is going to fucking take their ship. My father went to Annapolis. My father was a commander, right? He was a captain. He captained an oiler during Vietnam. He was a Navy aviator. He had two specialties, which was very rare in the Navy. He had ship command specialty, and he was a pilot, right? It was a double specialization, right? A double specialization. And I'm just telling you, no fucking U.S. ship captain is gonna fucking take their ship through the Hormuz Strait. They're just ain't gonna do it. They're gonna say, court-martial me. I'm not taking my ship through those fucking straits, bitch. And that's why all of these firings are happening. I don't know if you know that, but admirals have gone, all these firings, because they're like, captain's like, we're not doing it. Take your ship through. Can you imagine Hagstaff? Take your ship through it, right? And they're like, fuck off, right? Oh, it would be. It would be Hiroshima. It would be, what is the bloodiest confrontation against the Japanese in a high that would model the assault on Iran on the beaches? It would be catastrophic. I mean, they've had 40 years to develop the bunker system. I mean, the entire place is hardened, right? For us to go into an area, we would need at least 3 to 5 to 1 ratios. Explain that, simulate that out. I want you to apply simulation theory, us doing a ground assault, how many troops we need, what would be the potential, and model it after other conventional wars. And then think of all of the drones in Iran, the Ukraine, and everything else. I want you to model this out for us. It'd be Okinawa. It would be catastrophic, right? It's going to do, that's a beautiful in the AI. You're dealing with a super high level AI. It can model this out. It can look at the facts, look at all the data, grab all the data, model it out. There you go. Listen to this. Right. I love AI, dude. Look at all this shit, dude. It's just going on and on and on.
This ground assault against a heavily fortified, rugged coastline, such as Iran's Persian Gulf or Gulf of Oman shores, presents one of the most complex tactical challenges in modern warfare. Modeling this scenario requires blending classical military attrition mathematics with modern, multi-domain variables like electronic warfare and ubiquitous drone density. The mechanics of the 3-to-1 to 5-to-1 force ratio. The 3-to-1 rule of thumb is a foundational concept in conventional military doctrine, often modeled via Lanchester's power laws. It dictates that to successfully breach a prepared defensive line, an attacking force must outnumber the defenders 3-to-1 at the specific point of assault. When dealing with a hardened, deeply echeloned, and mountainous defense system, similar to the 40-year development of bunkers, subterranean networks, and missile silos found in Iranian coastal geography, that requirement escalates to 5-to-1 or even 7-to-1. Why the ratio escalates? The defender's advantage. A defender in a concrete bunker requires significantly less energy, exposure, and ammunition to hold a position than an attacker moving across open water or exposed beaches. Force dissipation. An attacking force loses a massive percentage of its combat power just trying to cross the fatal funnel, the open water and beachhead, before ever making direct contact with the primary defensive line. Force concentration. The 5-to-1 ratio does not mean the entire theater requires 5 times the total population of the enemy. Points, the landing zones. The attacker must mass to absorb catastrophic initial losses and still maintain the momentum to push inland. Historical baselines, from the Pacific to Ukraine. To build a predictive simulation, we look at historical data points that mirror these exact variables. 1. The Pacific Theater, Iwo Jima and Okinawa, 1945. The scenario. The Japanese military spent years burrowing into volcanic rock, creating interconnected bunker networks, artillery caves, and pillboxes. They conceded the beachhead to attackers into pre-registered kill zones inland. The ratios and cost. At Iwo Jima, roughly 110,000 U.S. Marines assaulted an island defended by 21,000 deeply entrenched Japanese troops, roughly a 5-to-1 ratio. The assault was successful, but it resulted in over 26,000 U.S. casualties. It remains one of the few instances where the attackers' total casualties exceeded the defenders. 2. The Surovikin Line, Ukraine, 2023. The scenario. Modern conventional trench and bunker warfare. Deep minefields, concrete dragon's teeth, and pre-ranged artillery, all monitored by reconnaissance drones. The lesson. Even with modern armor, attempting a frontal assault against a prepared defense without absolute air superiority and a massive artillery/missile advantage results in stagnation and heavy equipment losses. The modern simulation matrix, the drone factor. A modern simulation cannot rely solely on historical 1945 or even 1991 models. The introduction of ubiquitous drone warfare completely alters the calculus of an amphibious assault, severely punishing the attacker. The death of tactical surprise. In the past, night operations, weather, or smoke screens could mask an invasion fleet. Today, a network of long-range reconnaissance drones, like Iran's Mohajer or Ababil classes, combined with satellite imagery, ensures the attacking fleet is tracked hundreds of miles before reaching the coast. The drone swarm versus amphibious staging. The attacker's vulnerability. Troops jammed into landing craft, amphibious vehicles, and slow-moving logistical vessels are prime targets. The defender's payload. Thousands of FPV, first-person view, loitering munitions, and Shahed-class kamikaze drones can be launched from hidden inland bunkers. These drones bypass traditional naval air defense envelopes by attacking in overwhelming numbers, swarming, targeting the command antennas, radar arrays, and engines of landing ships.
Yeah, and the thing is, I don't know if you realize they have fiber optic drones now that can go like 40 miles, right? 40 miles. They have these massive spools of fiber optics, and you can't block them. So imagine you're just in a bunker, right? You're in your bunker. You've got 20,000 fucking drones. You got all your fiber optic spindles there, and like, here they come. And you just sit there. You got your PvP goggles on. This is the new gamer, the Iranian gamer, right? And they're just sitting in there, and they're hard in bunkers. And all of a sudden, there is 10,000 fucking drones out there, who just come down, and you can't block them. They're just just would destroy the Americans. We would get destroyed. That's why I'm there. That's interesting. I want to pivot a little way. I just heard that Tulsi Gabbard stepped down, and that 4 other cabinet members. Could you search the number of cabinet members? Trump cabinet are leaving. 4 people have already left. Who are the 4? Oh, I didn't do this. I just heard that Tulsi Gabbard stepped down, and other cabinet members. I want to pivot really quick. Find the latest information on Tulsi Gabbard, why she stepped down, and who are the other cabinet members that have left. Yeah, I've been working. I'm in Japan. I don't pay attention to mainstream media or anything else. See that last week? Yeah, I've been busy coding and stuff. I've got ducklings at home. Where's your brother? I thought he's done at 9.
Gabbard announced her resignation as the Director of National Intelligence, DNI, on Friday, May 22nd, 2026. Her departure is set to become effective on June 30th, 2026.
I wonder why she's leaving, dude. Can you imagine the information? Oh, she's already given Russia. She's a Russian asset. She's already given Russia all. She's like, okay, I've extricated all this information. I've hired your people. I'm out. Right? She's out.
Tulsi Gabbard stepped down. The official reason Gabbard cited in her resignation letter is a deeply personal family matter. Her husband, Abraham Williams, was recently diagnosed with an extremely rare form of bone cancer. In her public statement, she noted that he faces major challenges in the coming months, and that she, quote, cannot in good conscience ask him to face this fight alone, while managing a highly demanding national security role. However, Washington insiders and reporting suggest her exit was also accelerated by heavy policy friction behind closed doors, specifically tied to the exact geopolitical tensions we were just discussing. The Iran strategy rift, Gabbard, has built her modern political identity on strong anti-interventionist principles. This put her at direct odds with the administration following the joint U.S. and Israeli military strikes on Iran on February 28, 2026. Awkward testimony. During Senate Intelligence Committee hearings in March, Gabbard visibly distanced herself from the administration's rhetoric. She testified that Iran had not attempted to rebuild its nuclear capabilities after previous strikes, creating tense exchanges with lawmakers. When pressed on the threat level, she repeatedly stated that the choice to strike belonged to the president, noting, "It is not the intelligence community's responsibility to determine what is and is not an imminent threat." While her formal letter emphasizes her husband's health, subsequent reports indicate the White House actively pressured her to step aside following these public policy rifts. Other cabinet-level departures, Gabbard's resignation makes her the fourth cabinet official to depart the administration during this second term. The executive branch has experienced a wave of high-profile exits over the last few months. Official, position, date of exit, context of departure. Kristi Noem, Secretary of Homeland Security, late March 2026. Ousted by the president, amid mounting public and internal criticism over her handling of disaster responses and immigration enforcement.
All women.
Bondi,
All
Attorney
women.
General.
All women are leaving. Isn't that weird that all women are leaving his administration?
April 2nd, 2026. Removed from her post by the president after serving since Secretary of Labor. April 21st, 2026. Resigned from her position after becoming the focus of multiple internal misconduct investigations. Notable non-cabinet exit, tying back to the military strategy side of things. Joe Kent, the director of the National Counterterrorism Center, also resigned in March 2026. Unlike the others, Kent left explicitly in protest, stating he, quote, cannot in good conscience support the administration's war footing against Iran.
There you go. All ties on that. What's up, Fred? Fred G. Good to see you in here. Hey, Brozak. Going against the ceasefire is an issue. We don't have hegemony. Yeah, we don't have hegemony. We don't have time. Trump, I love it when Trump goes, "Oh, we got all the time in the world. We're not in a rush." Everything Trump says is a lie. So when he says we're not in a rush, it means he is in a rush, right? The thing is, Iran just needs to sit and wait. All right, let's watch it all collapse, right? Let's watch your fertilizer collapse. Let's watch your aluminum production, right? Fertilizer, AI, all this stuff, is on there. All right, continuing our conversation then with Iran. We understand the backstory, everything else, and then so basically, correct me if I'm wrong. Iran, was somewhat supportive, or they wanted to nationalize their oil. Then there's a CIA coup. The Shah comes in. Israel, they're using it as a proxy. Then it gets overthrown. The Shah calls America the big devil, Donald Trump, and the little devil, Israel, which is very fitting, right? I think that's pretty prophetic. And then, ultimately, there was a list. There was a general or someone said there was a list of all the countries they were going to get rid of, and that list is basically Iran is the last one. Can you talk about that? There's a list in the Pentagon. The guy said, like, here are the countries. Is like, we're taking Iran. Right?
Tracked the broader geopolitical timeline perfectly, though there is a quick pivot on who said what. It actually wasn't the Shah who coined those infamous names. It was his arch nemesis, Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, the religious cleric who overthrew him in 1979. The Shah was a deeply pro-Western ruler and a close ally of Washington. Once Khomeini took power during the Islamic Revolution, he inverted that dynamic and branded the United States the Great Satan and Israel the Little Satan. From oil nationalization to the 1979 flip, the trajectory you mentioned is the exact original sin of modern U.S.-Iran relations. 1951 to 1953, oil and the coup. Iran's democratically elected prime minister, Mohammad Mossadegh, moved to nationalize the country's oil assets, which had been monopolized by the British, via the company that eventually became BP. In response, the
fucking BP, British BP, British Petroleum, did Israel. And then they were like, we're nationalizing our oil for the people, like anyone, like Chavez, hey, we're going to give it to the people. Everything else ends up, getting fucked.
CIA and British MI6 orchestrated Operation Ajax in 1953, overthrowing the democratic government and restoring the Shah.
We're a democracy overthrowing other democratic governments. We are the fucking terrorists. America is the fucking terrorist, right? And we are the big Satan. All the shit. Everything for capitalism, everything for these fucking billionaires. We don't have enough. We need more. We need more. We need Iran's oil. We need Venezuela oil. We need more money. More money. It's gluttony. It's evil. These billionaires are fucking evil. I need to become a religious person. They're evil, right? They're fucking evil. I need to start, I don't know. They're anti-Christian. They're anti-Muslim. They're anti, everything, right? Billionaires. They're the devil on there. It's crazy.
Absolute power to secure Western oil access. The Israel-Shah alliance. Under the Shah, Iran and Israel actually maintained a deep, quiet strategic alliance. It was a core part of Israel's periphery doctrine, which sought alliances with non-Arab states in the Middle East to counter surrounding Arab nationalism. 1979, the whiplash. When the revolution toppled the Shah, the new religious regime completely severed these ties, turning a primary American and Israeli regional ally into their fiercest adversary overnight. General Wesley Clark and the 7 countries list. The list you are referring to is one of the most famous and startling pieces of modern military whistleblowing. It was revealed by General Wesley Clark, the former Supreme Allied Commander of NATO. In a 2007 interview, Clark recounted visiting the Pentagon a few weeks after the September 11th attacks in 2001.
Turn it off.
A high-ranking staff officer in the Secretary of Defense's office pulled him aside and noted that
your settings.
starting with Iraq, and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and, finishing off, Iran. General Wesley Clark. Looking at the geopolitical checkerboard over the last 25 years, the progression of that policy roadmap is striking. Target country, historical trajectory and outcome. 1. Iraq, invaded in 2003, government overthrown. 2. Syria, deeply destabilized by foreign-backed interventions and a brutal civil war, beginning in 2011. 3. Lebanon, sustained political and economic crises, alongside ongoing military targeting of regional proxy networks. 4. Libya, NATO intervention in 2011, overthrew Muammar Gaddafi, leaving the state highly fractured. 5. Somalia, decades of targeted drone strikes, counter-terrorism campaigns, and cross-border operations. 6. Sudan, fractured by internal conflict, leading to the partition of the country in 2011 and ongoing instability. 7. Iran, the final milestone, subjected to decades of severe economic isolation, cyber warfare, and targeted strikes. The strategic consequence. When military planners look at that list today, Iran stands out as the lone state on the original layout that has not undergone full regime collapse or a direct, large-scale Western ground invasion. Because the other nations on the list were systematically neutralized or severely weakened, Tehran shifted its entire military doctrine toward asymmetric defense.
Yeah.
They recognized they were the final name on that specific Pentagon whiteboard,
Yeah.
and they spent the last 40 years preparing for that reality, building the exact network of hardened subterranean bunkers, layered missile stockpiles, and dense drone capabilities that make a conventional ground assault so dangerous today.
Yeah, I mean, they're on the fucking list. They're the last of the list. They're gonna go, what? Hey, what's up, Rod? What the fuck were you gonna do? This is why, they've been waiting. I think they've been waiting. They've known that America was going to attack them then, right? They've been waiting. Talk about the prophecy. Talk about the attitude, the martyrdom. We couldn't have done anything better than blowing up their leader, because now he's in heaven. He's martyred himself. The guy had cancer. The guy was going to die. We had to give him a martyr's exit. We had to elevate them. I want you to go in and talk about the mindset and how crazy it is. These individuals are built for war, unlike the Japanese in Okinawa and the other place you talked about earlier. They are itching for us to go there. You have to understand the Iranian mindset, guys. And their religious connotation. It's very different than the Japanese. AI's thinking. AI's thinking. It's always good when AI takes a long time to answer, that it's working. I mean, it's looking at thousands of data points, right? It is searching all of this information right now. It's going out there, reading all these sites, getting all this information, gathering it all, analyzing it all. I mean, the amount of data that this AI system right now is grabbing. And you have to understand that AI is Windows 98 right now, okay? Or Windows 95. We are operating on Windows 95. AI is literally not even 5 years old. I mean, the whole system that we're dealing with, not even 5 years old. So what is coming and how it's going to impact and change things is just staggering. It is mind bending, right? Intelligence has been replaced. We will learn from AI, just like I'm learning all this stuff. This isn't brain rot. This is an interactive. Podcast right now. I'm interacting with AI, deep diving into things, asking questions. It's out there grabbing all and presenting it and feeding it back. This is learning. This is education. This isn't brain rot. If you're using AI, write me a letter, do me this, do me that. But if you actually are using AI like I am with you and demonstrating, applying game theory, chaos theory, and everything else to come and find this information, find those linkages that that pull together, and and then explore it. It's really it's really educational on that. I know, dude. I was there. Dude, I had Windows, playing Ultima Online. Playing Ultima Online. I think I was on 98, right? Windows. No, it was 90. Yeah, I would have been on Windows 95 because Windows 98. I would have been Windows 98 because Windows 90 in 98 was when Ultima Online, actually 97. So it was Windows 95, and then Windows 98 came out. I was playing Ultima Online on Windows 95 and on 98, right? I was actually in graduate school finishing my master's at the University of Alabama, Tuscaloosa, and then in Montgomery. So, yeah. Dude, it's really prioritizing. It's really thinking, dude. Maybe it's been locked out. Yeah, you're on a static. Nice. You're on what was it called? It was what was it called? It was dial up and the other one, that was like the direct phone line into your PC. What was that called? I forget. It was my friend had that because he was an IT guy. God damn. When we played, he was like, he had no lag ever, I was like always on that fucking 33, or 30, whatever it was. Connection sucked, dude. Looks like it's stuck. Looks like it's stuck. It's prioritized regime survivor. I think the virtual intelligence shut it off because it's not responding. We'll let it sit for a while. Yeah, the thing is, 33.6 modem. What was the direct line in when they put the direct line into your house for your PC? What was that called? I forget the name of it. It was like huge. It was dedicated. You spend like $100 a month for it, like like $100 a month, 120. It's like $120 a month for it. ISDN. Was it ISDN? It was a direct phone line. It was a direct phone line for PC. That's all it did. It had the connect line. Maybe it was ISDN. I can't remember. I don't think it was Ethernet. Try again, that last response.
Cap the core of that geopolitical timeline, the modern friction between the US, Israel, and Iran boils down to three major historical chapters. 1.
No. I wanted to talk about the mindset of the Iranian people, their religion, and everything else, and the time of formidable force, and the prophecy of the U.S., the fact that they are number 7 on the list. They knew they were the last name on the Pentagon list. They knew America was attacking. I just want you to explain the mindset and also the military, the elite guard. These are fanatical. It didn't take my last prop. Let's see if this will take it.
To really understand Iran as a military adversary, you have to look past standard troop counts and hardware. You have to look at a strategic mindset forged by an existential siege mentality, a powerful national identity, and a religious framework that views struggle through the lens of holy martyrdom. When the Pentagon list leaked, it didn't shock the leadership in Tehran. It confirmed exactly what they already believed. It turned their paranoia into a roadmap. 1. The number 7 siege mentality. For a quarter of a century, Iranian leadership watched the US military dismantle its neighbors. They saw Iraq invaded, Afghanistan occupied, and Libya destabilized. To Tehran, the lesson was clear. Diplomacy is an illusion, and denuclearization is suicide. This realization fundamentally shifted their internal politics and military doctrine, the death of reform. Every time a moderate political faction in Iran tried to open dialogues with the West, the hardline security apparatus could point to the Pentagon's trajectory and say, asterisk, look at the list. They are coming for us next, no matter what we promise. This effectively killed internal political reform and consolidated absolute power within the security state. A self-fulfilling prophecy, knowing they were the final destination on that list, meant that every economic sanction, cyber attack, like Stuxnet, and proxy skirmish, was viewed not as an isolated incident, but as preparatory bombardment for an inevitable invasion. They adjusted their entire society to operate under perpetual wartime conditions. 2. The religious framework, The Karbala paradigm. You cannot understand the mindset of the Iranian elite forces without understanding Shia Islam, which is fundamentally different in its historical psychology than Sunni Islam. Shia theology is anchored in the Karbala paradigm, the historical martyrdom of Imam Hussein, the grandson of the Prophet Muhammad, who, along with a tiny band of 72 followers, chose to stand and be slaughtered by a massive tyrant army of thousands rather than bow to an unjust ruler. To a fanatical believer in the Iranian elite guard, fighting a technically superior superpower like the United States isn't a tactical nightmare. It is the literal replication of their most sacred cosmic drama. In Western military doctrine, a 5-to-1 disadvantage means you retreat or surrender. In the IRGC's ideological framework, facing overwhelming odds is a spiritual validation. Dying in defense of the Islamic Republic isn't a loss. It is martyrdom, the highest spiritual achievement. This completely breaks standard Western deterrence models, which rely on the assumption that an enemy will choose survival over destruction. 3.
This is what Trump doesn't understand. Trump can't understand. I'm threatening you to blow you up. And they're like, bring it, bitch. Bring it. Right? They're laughing at Trump. All the memes, all the stuff is that Trump can't wrap. Trump is a dumb fuck. He can't wrap his head around the Iranian people, the leadership. You know, he's like, I'm big, I'm bad, they're going to do what I'm going to do. They're like, no, you are a pedo. You are a rapist. You are nothing but a fucking clown, right? In control, you know, with your sex tapes in the hand of Israel and your sex tapes in the hand of fucking Putin, right? The fact that Putin called him up and then he's like moving out the troops. Putin calls him up and he's moving out the troop. The guy is compromated, right? And I've done the whole talk on that. So this is what you have to understand.
C. An ideological army. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, is not a standard national military. It was created in 1979, specifically to protect the Islamic system from internal coups and external invaders. Indoctrination and loyalty. Unlike the regular Iranian army, the Artesh, which defends the country's borders, the IRGC defends the ideology of the revolution. Its members are heavily vetted for religious and political loyalty. They run their own intelligence agency, control a massive portion of the Iranian economy, and
guess what? The young Shah is part of these, right? The new Shah, the old Shah was kind of like a religious figure. The new Shah was appointed by this group. And you have to understand, this group is not like a military, it's a corporation. They own banks, they own insurance. They're one of the biggest. They're huge. They're like, it's like JA, Japan Agriculture. They own properties. They have investments. I mean, it's unlike anything. It's all decentralized. They all know, like, if I die, you're in command, right? It's like you don't need the whole 2002 model, decentralized, headless model. That's what Iran is running. They have no centralized command. They're all nodes within, and they all have orders on what to do.
Exclusively to the supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. The cult of the Quds Force, the elite wing of the IRGC, the Quds Force, formerly led by Qasem Soleimani, specializes in unconventional warfare. They don't think like bureaucratic generals. They think like insurgent architects. They have spent decades embedding themselves across the Middle East, in Lebanon, Yemen, Iraq, and Syria, creating a ring of fire around regional U.S. assets and Israel. Mosaic defense doctrine. Because they knew they were number 7 on the list, the IRGC designed a doctrine called the Mosaic Defense. They assumed the U.S. would successfully destroy their centralized command and control network in the opening hours of a war. Therefore, the IRGC fractured itself into completely autonomous, decentralized local cells across the country. Every province has its own independent IRGC command, stockpiles of weapons, and autonomous drone/missile teams. If Tehran is flattened, these local commanders have standing orders to wage a permanent, brutal asymmetric insurgency against an occupying force, completely independent of a central hierarchy. 4. The population. Regime versus nation. There is a vital nuance regarding the broader Iranian population. Millions of ordinary Iranians, especially the younger generation, are deeply disillusioned with the oppressive, theological rule of the mullahs. The country has been rocked by massive...
And all of the leadership, guess what? We killed all the leadership. That whole young group, we just killed. We gave them hope. They stood up protested. We weren't there for them, and 30,000 of them, from reports, are all dead. All of the instigators are dead. There are no leadership within Iran to pick up the mantle for this internal invasion that we hoped for. They killed them all. The IRC is the Iranian Republic Guard, IRG or whatever, systematically wiped them all out. They hunted them all out. They are dead. There isn't anything left for them. So for our understanding that there's going to be some internal update, no, they're all fucking dead. They got cleansed, right? They did no different than what the Chinese did with the Uyghurs. They went in there and just started just cleansing the Uyghurs, everything else. There was a whole bunch of terrorism happening in China, and they fucking put an end to that. And that's what Trump wants to do to us. I think we're going to see. I think we're going to see this the Civil War to kick off this November. I really do. I think that Trump is not going to accept the loss of the House or the Senate. I don't know if you realize, but the rural Republican base is down 34 points. All right, let me say that again. The rural Republicans, right, they're down 34. In the election and stuff, they were like 24 points or 24 points ahead, and they just lost by like 12 points and stuff. So there's going to be martial law, and I think that's going to be it. When Trump tries to instigate martial law, that's when the second revolution starts, right? That's when 400 million guns. And it's so funny because the whole thing about the Republicans was about federal lockdown, and now they're part of the federal solution. Like all these people, these oath keepers and everything, these libertarians, we want control. And now they're all, we love the federal government. We stood up against it all, but not now. We're Republicans. We're like so stupid. I mean, there's MAGA. MAGA is simply the Ku Klux Klan, is the KKK in a red hat. That's all it is, right? And I think we're going to see, the Black Panthers are organizing. That there are massive groups organizing, black groups organizing right now as a result of the Southern attack on them. You know that the desegregation laws, here, I'm going to let you guys out here, okay? All right, I'm going to talk a little bit here.
Oh,
What's wrong with you? You can't walk around the corner? Because I wanted to look out over the river. That's why. It was pretty there.
you can walk there.
No, I'm in the car.
What do you mean you're in the car? Walk.
Oh, God. Noisy. That's Tommy and Mike. Thanks for the ride, guys. Appreciate it. Love you.
Okay.
All right. I have a house, Paul. I have a house. I have a house, dude. If you want to come to Japan, reach out to me on Discord. Someone type Discord in there. I got a house. It needs some work. Do you have any skills? I've got a second house. I'm looking for someone to come here and help me work on it. Get on Discord. Some type in Discord. It's foundups.org. Foundups, one word. Found, UPS, one word. Foundups.org. That's at Discord. Join there. I'm undown, dude. Send me a message on there. All right. Ashley. Go get a fucking education, Ashley. Go get an education. Look at him. Look at him in here. Get your wax in, boys. Get your wax in. KKK, no. KKK isn't, right? It was the Southern Democrats. The KKK. Who does the KKK support? They support Trump. I wonder why. Who does the Nazis support? Who does the American Nazis support? Do they support Biden? Did they support Kamala? No. Right? They support fucking Trump. If it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's a fucking duck, dude. Right? Trump's a bitch. Yeah, so, what were we here? Let me finish listening.
Protests and economic exhaustion from decades of sanctions. However, military planners make a catastrophic mistake when they assume internal dissent means the population will welcome a foreign invader. Iran has a fierce, uninterrupted 2,500-year history of nationalism dating back to the Persian Empire. Historically, when external forces strike Iranian soil, internal political grievances are instantly set aside.
Yep.
An attack by Western forces would likely trigger a massive nationalist rally around the flag effect, uniting even the secular, regime-critical population against an outside aggressor to defend their homeland.
Yeah, there is no one, right? They're highly, and they look at Trump, they look at America, we blew up the girls' school, we blew up their oil infrastructure, we're blowing up, we blew up their communications. There is no pro-American Iran. If we have them, they're in America, right? They're not in Iran at this stage on that. All right. See if your bill's moving anyone else. What are you talking about? What? SOCD Scott. SOCD Scott. What are you talking about? Education and without knowledge is worth, dude. For someone being on YouTube for 14 years, you sure are dumb. He sure. It's up, Vic. Chat filter. Make sure I got all filters on. It's a simpleton. He's been on for fucking 14 years. It's kind of embarrassing. Iran is winning, dude. You think that they can't be defeated, right? They can't be defeated. That's the deal. I was listening. You know what I was listening to on this here? All right. You know what I was listening to is let's see. Where is it? What is the Chinese dude that is famous? Dr. Zhang or something? What's his name? Someone type his name. You know what I'm talking about? What's his name? There he is. Here we go. We're going to listen to this guy. We're going to talk about this guy.
So on Thursday, we will do the final examination. And so today, what I'm going to do is review all that we've learned this semester and combine together into a framework of how the world works. Okay? So the main driving question of the semester is, why did the US attack Iran? Right, so this is the central mystery.
So why did he attack? Because a number of reasons. All right, I'm going to answer this right now so you can skip it. Why did the U.S. attack Iran? Number one, they're number 7 on the list. They're always going to get attacked. The Pentagon has been talking about it. We war gamed it out in 2002. I've already covered all this. Israel sees them as an existential threat because, they have Israel as little Satan, right? We're big Satan. They're little Satan. They've always known they were going to get attacked. So why did we attack? Well, we attacked because of it's a distraction from the Epstein files, right? And we attacked because Israel controls and has the compromat of Trump being a pedo with girls. So the videos of Trump as a pedo is in Bibi's hands. The videos of Trump as a pedo is in Putin's hands. Why would Putin or Bibi release pictures of Trump pedoing girls, right? All the videos of him, of him raping, the Katie Johnson rape, multiple times. He raped her 4 or 5 times. And then there was the other girl, right? There's all these testimony now in the Epstein files we know is there. Him killing babies on his yacht, talks about that. There is so much fucking shit on Trump, and all this shit, right? All this shit is in the hands of Bibi and Putin. That's why when Pete, look, he's getting up, he's getting up there, right? He's getting upset. What's up, Roddy? Look, Roddy. Oh, look at Roddy, all caps Roddy. Look at all caps Roddy. All right. Roddy, yeah, I love your energy, Roddy. Give us some more, Roddy the pedo lover. So the simple fact is, it doesn't. They're not going to release tapes. Now, we will eventually see the tapes, right? The tapes will come out, right? The tapes will come out, and they'll say, look, here are the tapes of Trump. And then they're going to say, oh, it was AI, it's fake, and everything else, right? Conveniently on that. So why did we attack? Because number one, Iran was number 7 on the list. Number 2, the Epstein file list was a little too heavy, right? Right. Oh, look at Roddy. Poor Roddy. Dude, poor Roddy's out of control. Here, Roddy, let me give you a little love. Here. Here, Roddy. Hey, Roddy, here's a minute timeout. What's up, David? Me too. Hashtag me too. I was fooled by Trump. Me too is actually was a thing. Wow. Yeah, of course, David. Welcome to the chat. So you have to understand that we're listening to Professor Zhang here.
Of the world today. Because even today, Donald Trump has yet to articulate a reason for attacking Iran.
Yeah, the reason is Epstein files, right? It's easy. Type 1 if you think the reason he attacked Iran is because of the Epstein files. Type 1 if you think that. Type 1 if you think. Type 0 if you don't think that, right? Now, Iran was on a list. There was 7 countries, right? 7 countries, right? So Iran was always going to get attacked by America at some point. We've been talking about it for 40 years. They released the list on that. But for Trump thing, the Epstein files was right on there. Why do I need to do a shout out for you, Andrews? Right, Andrews, right? I don't need to do a shout out for you. All right, you didn't even vote. You didn't even vote. You want a shout out? You didn't even vote. So on that, and so that's why he's not talked about it. And no, we're not talking about the Epstein files. Ever since oil prices are up, okay, right? The oil prices are up, and Trump can't win this war. So, but Trump is the first president that is so compromised. And you have to understand, I've done videos. You understand, let me just do a really quick refresher on it. Number one, the top person, right, of Israeli intelligence. Let me just validate this. I'll have AI validate this real quick on this. I want to validate all of one of the top heads of Israeli intelligence was Epstein's handler. He stayed with Epstein. Epstein's security is run by Israeli firm, and this guy stayed with Epstein during the highlight of Trump, and we do know that all the rooms had videos. There was massive computers. Someone got the heads up. Only one group would have a heads up that they were about to get raided. They took all the data. We never got hold of all the video data that we know of. All that stuff. We also know Epstein had a strong relationship with Russia. Talk about that. Tie all the pieces together with what we know with Epstein and Israel. And in all likelihood, anything that's compromat that Epstein had would be in the hands of Mossad at this point, right? Yeah, so you have to understand that the relationship between Israel and Epstein is like this, right? Strong. And then Epstein and Trump is like this.
Tapping directly into the exact details that have sent shockwaves through the international community. With the U.S. Justice Department releasing millions of pages of unredacted Epstein files, what once sounded like wild internet conspiracy theories has been anchored in official document trails. The data trail connects the dots on how Epstein operated at the intersection of blackmail, political elite access, and foreign intelligence. 1. The Israeli handler and the UN Mission Security Detail. The high-level official you are thinking of is Ehud Barak. He is one of the most powerful figures in modern Israeli history, not only a former prime minister, but also the former head of Amman, Israel's military intelligence. The unsealed files reveal a jaw-dropping level of state-level integration at a Manhattan apartment building on East 66th Street, controlled by Epstein. The safe house, Barak and his wife frequently used and stayed at this apartment building for extended periods during the height of the Trump presidency. State-controlled surveillance. The emails prove that the Israeli government, specifically Israel's permanent mission to the United Nations, installed security equipment and strictly managed access to the building. Rafi Shlomo's role. The head of protective services at the Israeli UN mission, Rafi Shlomo, personally oversaw the security setup. He coordinated directly with Epstein's personal assistant to install window sensors, alarms, and remote access surveillance tools. Vetting the staff, Shlomo actually ran background checks on Epstein's employees and maids before allowing them into the building. When Epstein's team needed to send workers into the apartment, they emailed the Israeli consulate to have the security systems remotely neutralized. While Barak has apologized for the relationship and maintains he knew nothing of Epstein's crimes, the documents prove active Israeli state officials were physically managing an operation inside an Epstein-controlled hub. 2. The FBI file. Co-opted Mossad agent. For years, mainstream media dismissed claims of Epstein being a spy as baseline speculation. However, the DOJ release included a heavily scrutinized 2020 FBI report from the Los Angeles field office. In that report, a confidential FBI informant stated directly that they were convinced Epstein was a co-opted Mossad agent who had been trained as a spy.
Yeah, and this goes back to other podcasts I had that understand that Epstein was part of Iran-Contra. His company was basically a vendor reseller for the promised software that Israel was putting all over the place with the back door. They did 500 million. One person, right? Robert Maxwell could have done 500 million. And we also know, due to his passport, the guy was going to Saudi Arabia, Spain. They were putting this software. I got this access to amazing software. Look at this, mind blowing. All of it had Israeli backdoors. This backdoor ended up giving Compromat, give Israel the relationship to expand. You have to understand that the orchestration of Israel started in 73, right? 76, 81 is when it really started with the, on that. I've covered all this before. So you have to understand the linkage between Israel and Iran, which we covered today, the linkage between Israel and Epstein, which I've covered before, the linkage between Israel, Epstein, and Trump, right? So Epstein becomes this glue and getting all this compromat that's feeding Israel, and Israel owns Trump. It's simple as that. That's simple as that. Why did America attack Iran, right? If you can go to bed, Israel's bitch.
I understand that right now there are ceasefire negotiations going on. Unless we can properly understand or diagnose the rationale for this war,
he actually was. He was a prodigy. Actually, Epstein was a prodigy. He attended university young, right? He went through high school. He was in the accelerated. The guy, you can't. I'm not going to take away his emails. Do sound dumb, right? Maybe with all the drugs he did and all the fucking, his brain got cooked. But as a child, he was a prodigy, a piano prodigy. He was a prodigy as a child, right? It's well documented. And he played the piano. I believe this is and I don't know if you heard this, Posey, I talked about it. An interesting thing about Epstein is he never talks about his dad, right? That's a massive clue. Why he talks about his mom, he never talks about his dad. Now let's explore his dad. His dad was in his prime during World War II. He didn't go All of his dad's classmates, all of his dad's friends went and fought in the Great War. Not him. We knew he did construction, and we also knew he became picked up garbage for the parks. So so he someone who becomes a trash picker who didn't go to the Second World War is dealing with shit, right? Daddy issues. Yes. He worked on construction. He injured. We do know he injured himself. He got hurt in construction. We do know that about Epstein's father. So what happens? You're in your prime. You get injured. You can't fight. What do you do? What do you do? Do you have cocaine back then? Do you have marijuana back then? What did he do? You are a fucking failure. All your buddies are going to war. You can't go. You're there. What? How do you deal with that? How do you deal with that? What do you do? How do you deal with that reality back then? You drink. You hit it. He's there drinking. And then he comes home. And there's this little fucking girly boy playing the piano, soft hands, right? This little boy, right? He's like, how can this be my son? Look at this son. You're like a girl, right? So I believe that Epstein was sexually assaulted by his father, right? This is why he doesn't talk about it. He locked it away, right? He locked it away, right, on that, because he played the pianos. He was girly. Here comes home the guy, the failure, comes home, sees this little girly boy, right, and he abused him, right, sexually abused him. Epstein's abuse. This is how you create a monster. Epstein is what he is doing externally to these girls is what happened to him. He has become his father. He has become the monster. And this is basically his modum operandum, right? He never talks about it, right? But he role plays it out. On it. So there's no proof. This is completely game theory. This is only from one thing. He never talks about his father. We do another thing. He was a girly boy. A prodigy, child. We know that, and completely my speculation. No one else. You won't hear this from anyone else. I'm the only one who makes this assertion, right? I'm the only. I thought it. I'm just so you know my background. I was abused when I was 8 years old. Okay, I didn't talk about. I locked it away. I locked away my abuse until I was 25 years old. When I was 25 years old, I was watching Pulp Fiction. Okay, in Pulp Fiction, I was watching Pulp Fiction. Get this guy out of here. On there. New account, dude. Get him out. Get him out. Get rid of these fuckers, dude. Right? I'm not in the mood. Get rid of them. The KKK, right? So I was watching Pulp Fiction. I was with my girlfriend. Right, she was a medical student. I'm at Florida State University, 25 years old, right, in the movie theater. And in the scene at in the motorbike scene, he gets knocked out. He wakes up. He's in the chair, right? He's in the chair, and he's tied. He's got you know what I'm talking about, that scene, okay, right? And all of a sudden, there's that chest. And the guy walks over, Jed, his name is Jed, is in there. He's like, oh, I'm going to have some fun with you. Oh, yeah. Let's get the gift out. And he walks over, and I'm like watching this movie, right? And he goes over, and that trunk opening up was the unlocking of my abuse, right? I realized now, actually, from streaming, I never understood what was it about Pulp Fiction that caused me to remember the abuse that I had locked away as an 8-year-old, being abused by an older child who's like 13, 14 years, that befriended me when I was visiting my grandfather and abused me, okay? I'd locked it away. The chest represented that memory that was locked away in my unconscious memory, and that GIMP was the abuser. And also with that, and all of a sudden in the movie theater, I am shaking. I am sweating. Okay. All right. Right. I'm sweating. I'm shaking. I'm holding my girlfriend was like, what's wrong? What's wrong? As these memories are flooded back to me, right? As I'm watching fucking Pulp Fiction. Right. The thing is with Epstein, the thing is with Trump, they have never unlocked those memories. PTSD, yeah, right. They've never unlocked those memories. Epstein, the way they dealt with the abuse is they became the abuser. Trump, the same thing. Trump was a product of no love, a product of abuse, emotional abuse. Trump wasn't sexually abused. Trump was emotionally abused. Trump is a 5-year-old who was never given love. When you start to look at Trump and understand that he is locked, he is locked. He's a 5-year-old, right? And he is never cognitively developed. Trump is never cognitively developed. He is that 5-year-old, okay? And when you start to look at Trump as that 5-year-old and realize this is a product of a child who was forsaken love by their father, right? And was raised in a very abusive, controlling way, this is what you have. That 5-year-old mentality, that brain never evolved. And when you start to think of Trump that way, and then Roy came along, yes, yeah, the rest is it. Exactly. And then Roy Cohn came along and adopted him and became that father, right? And became that father that he never had. You're right. Thank you, James. Roy Cohn came along and says, no, you can just lie, son, right? I'm going to teach you. And you get Compromat. The Epstein files, the reason why we're missing 2 million files, Trump is using the Compromat. Why is he putting in Epstein people in his administration? Like the head of the Fed is an Epstein files guy. Because he's using the Compromat. He's using the Epstein files. He has in control of the Epstein files. They're using it to control people. Like a fucker that says, oh, we went in Epstein's house one time. I saw that table. Me and my wife were there. Never again. We're going to do nothing. Except we went to the fucking island and we had with my kids and the nanny, right? And we there had, oh, yeah, oh, I can't, I was there with the nanny, right? That fucker, right? They're all compromised, dude. Epstein, Trump is using the Compromat, right? He's using the Compromat. He has been taught, he is Putin's bitch. Putin has the fucking files, right? Israel has the fucking copies, dude. You had the former guy living in his house, right? Oh man, let me see that. Oh yeah, out there, right? He was fucking Israel's bitch. He wasn't a spy. He was an asset. All right, let's be very specific. Yeah, Russia and Bibi have
difficulty of coming to a ceasefire. Okay, so I'm going to you the 3 major reasons that we learned in this class as to why the United States attacked Iran.
That's what he says.
The first major explanation is it's geopolitical. Geopolitics. And so, in this theory, what the United States is most afraid of is that Russia, Iran, and China would come together into. Okay, so you have Russia here, you have China here, then you have Iran here. Okay. Now, why the United States is afraid of this grand alliance is 3 nations were to combine together and just trade amongst themselves. They could encompass the entire Eurasian continent, include Europe.
I think this is also so we've got Trump's reasons. This would be like what's his name? Who's the Secretary of State? Rubio. This would be Rubio's thinking right here. So this is why Rubio wants to attack, right? Other people, you got Trump's 5-year-old mentality, you got other people, right? On Rubio. Yeah. Oh, there's so much, dude. Oh yeah, so much. All right. Hold on.
So the only way to ban at least 20% of Japan's specific major choke point, this is the Cape of Good Hope, do so from buy of America in order to maintain the American empire. Okay, so that's the first major reason. Okay, there's also another explanation, which is different, very different, and
Epstein files.
is eschatological. Number two is eschatological.
Eschatological. All right. What eschatological?
What this
Word for
means
the day.
is that there are religious fanatics within the American empire who believe that a war in the Middle East will launch a chain of events that will ultimately culminate
Christian nationalists
in the return
of Jesus.
Okay, so these are people who believe very strongly in.
So this also would be so you've got the Trump 5-year-old reason, Epstein files, right? Then you got the Rubio reason, right? Geopolitical. And now you've got the who would be the religious fucker, you know, then you got the Christian nationalist. Oh, what's his name? The fucking bootlicker. Then we got bootlicker. This is bootlicker, right? The head of our military. So we're actually seeing these things play out, right? So there is not one answer. There is the one thing to satisfy the 5-year-old. Then you've got the, you know, hey, let's achieve the list 7, and now also the Christian nationalists. Let's, you know, bring Jesus back. Jesus needs it. It's in the prophecy. It's in the Bible. That would be bootlicker Hegsteff. So this is Hegsteff's reason, right?
They believe that what the Bible teaches them is that if there is a war in the Middle East, okay, this Iran war, this will lead to the third temple, which would also involve the destruction of the Al-Aqsa Mosque, the third holiest site in the Islamic world, which would lead to the war of Gog and Magog.
Yeah, so that's this is Hegsteff right here.
Which would lead to the rise of the Antichrist. And at this point, if you are Jewish, you believe that this will lead to the coming of the Messiah and the ushering in of the Messianic age. If you're a Christian, you believe that this will lead to the second coming of Jesus and the rapture and the millennium of peace in the world before the day of judgment, and then heaven comes to earth. Okay. Now, what's interesting about this eschatological vision is that it also aligns with both the Islamic eschatology as well as the Orthodox eschatology. Okay. This is important because the Islamic, of course, is Iran, the Orthodox is Russian. And so what's really strange is that the 4 major nations involved right now in this war in the Middle East, including Iran, Russia, the United States, and Israel, share a similar eschatological outlook. And as a result, they're all actually, in many ways, working together to achieve a certain geopolitical.
Yeah, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's interesting.
Outcome, which includes the building of the third temple, the war of Gog and Magog, the coming of the Antichrist, and ultimately the end of the world.
The Antichrist is here. It's fucking Donald Trump, right? It's fucking here. The Antichrist is here, you know. And you even have the false prophet, the Antichrist and the false prophet. You have Elon Musk, and even in the Bible, it talks about fire from the sky. That's Elon Musk's rocket coming down, right, on there.
So that's a second explanation for what's happening. The third reason is actually the most mundane. Okay? And the third reason is this imperial decline. And when an empire declines, it does all sorts of stupid things. Because internally, it is fracturing for 3 reasons. The first reason is financialization, which is to say that you have a few people who control all the capital, and as a result, all they do is force everyone into debt slavery. And then everyone's forced to engage in speculation in order to try to get rich. Because there's no honest way to make a living. All right? So capital controls the empire. And this leads to corruption, inequality, and debt. And ultimately slavery.
What's Prostract's talking about? Prostract. Yeah, Elias had done. He was the best friend I didn't have. What's going on here, Prozac? Horrible what happened to you, Mike. I was in a situation when I was 11. And my best friend got abused and I froze. He killed himself. Wow. I feel like it's not your fault, dude. Not your fault. It's not your fault, Prozac. The important thing is to talk about it. All right. That's the main thing, that you're able to talk about it and say that you feel like it's your fault. It's not your fault. You can't put, you were a child and you don't have agency. Your brain did not develop and have agency actually till you're in your 20s, right? Your brain is still building. And he was your best friend. I didn't have any other friends. I froze like a bit. Of course you would. You're 11 years old. Tell my dad, but I knew my dad would be jailed if I told him. Yeah, because he would have fucking murdered the guy. I couldn't tell my dad. I didn't know how to tell my dad. I didn't know what happened. So he was a piece of shit, old man. We would stay away from old buildings, but we didn't. And I didn't see what happened. But I covered my eyes like a bitch and froze. Yeah, I mean, you should have told a police officer, right? But you don't know. You're 11 years old. I didn't know how to react to it. But you can't blame yourself, right? Yeah, you can't blame yourself. You can't blame yourself for the actions of a child, dude. You just can't. What's important for you to talk about it, that you feel comfortable that you're sharing it right now. I know you've shared this before, but I appreciate you sharing it. But you need to, and your friend, we're all gonna fucking die. He just died early. It doesn't matter. There's no, like, oh, that's a fox. Fucking fox. Fox just walked by me. There's a fox. The fox, just long, wirely fox, is checking out on there. Let's see if he comes back. Here. Why I have so much reflection here? Why am I getting this reflection? The fox went. Oh, it was cool. Big fox. It was the size of a small dog. Its tail was straight out on that. It just walked to the left of that car, making its rounds. Maybe it's going to come back. Maybe it'll come back on there. It's all good, dude. The important thing, Prozac, the important thing is, like I told my son, if you have children, pause, you have children. I told them my story, right? When they were older, I told when they were young, I said, if anyone ever touches you, anyone does anything inappropriate with you, you feel uncomfortable, you tell me and your mother, right? You tell me. No one's allowed to do anything inappropriate. You always never I was very sure to talk to my kids to ensure that they would come to me if anything like that happened. That was my biggest concern with my kids growing up, was them being abused by someone, right? At their and be sure. And in Japan, and the thing is, in Japan too, there are no babysitters. In Japan, you don't go to a cousin and say, take care of the kids. In Japan, parents take care of the kids, right? We have never had my kids have never had babysitters, right? on that. My kids have always either been me or my wife take care of the kids, right? The entire growing up. The luxury, we don't have that. They don't have that in this community. Japan doesn't have the babysitter community. It doesn't exist, right? Parents take care of the kids and they sacrifice whatever the fuck they want to do for the kids. The kids come first. That's how it is in Japan. So my kids have never, had relatives or anything hanging out, or a lot of abuse happens with inside the family, cousins, whatever like that, historically. And, it's just been my wife and I with our kids, and here they are, just selfish little bitches now. Yeah, the best thing is, yeah, you have to like make them. The important thing, the problem that your dad and my dad had, they didn't have this conversation, right? My dad never had that conversation with me. Hey, son, listen, if ever you feel uncomfortable, if ever someone wants to do, you say, hey, I'm going to tell my dad. I'm going to tell my dad. You just say, I'm going to tell my dad, right? That will fucking scare any fucking pedo away. I'm going to tell my dad. Just look at them and say, I'm going to tell my dad. Oh, there's the fox. There's the fox. There's the fox. There it is. There's it. Oh, I missed him. God damn. It just went down the street. Got to have the fucking phone, right? That's what I told him. I said, just say, I'm going to tell my dad. That's what you got to tell your daughter. Just say, listen, I'm going to tell my dad. I'm going to tell my dad. Just remember that line. I'm going to tell my dad. I'm going to tell my dad. I'm going to tell my dad. So on there. God damn, I missed the fucking fox. It's an old wirely fucking fox, dude. Wirely fox, dude. I'm surprised my chickens made it. They must have been scared. That fucking fox must have been trying to get into the chickens on there. Anyway. Thanks for sharing, Prosaic. But you need to feel the love for your best friend. You need to smile at the memory. Don't let this event on that. Yeah, you should have told your dad, you should have told your dad. But that's, if he, I didn't have, my father never had that conversation with me. But on that. But I think you should have told a teacher or something if you couldn't. It's a shame, but it's neither here nor there. You can't blame yourself for the actions of a child, right? It's trauma. It was traumatic. On there. Wait for that fucking fox to come down here. It should. It's going to come back and check if there's food in here. This neighbor always has food. So the fox should come back, and it should come back in here. Let's see if it does. On there. Yeah, it's like today. No, dude, I brought it out. No, it's good. It's not a shitty situation, man. No, it's good to share. Never apologize. I have a certain rule in this stream. Never apologize. Okay, there is no apologies in this stream. And I appreciate the share. I think it's good. It's good to have a conversation, and also be able to hear from another person. The how they feel about it, and I've known, I mean, as we get older, we know people died and stuff like that. Like I had a friend of mine who had a had a sports car, and then he went and got one of those fucking big trucks and killed himself. And we all knew he was going to fucking kill himself on it. So, but the main thing is, don't hold it. You shouldn't hold it against you. It's good to release. I mean, if it wasn't for the stream, I never understood why I, reacted the way I did with my girlfriend at 25, until I started thinking about it, talking about it, and the most important thing is, unless you unlock these these ghosts, right? Because it becomes a demon. That event that happened to you, if you weren't able to talk about it, and you feel that guilt and everything else, and you carry that, and you can end up becoming affecting you, right? But when you let it out, when you share it, when you talk it, then it has no more power. I mean, the abuse that I experience has no power over me, right? I can, on it. So, because I've freed myself by being able to talk about it. And that's the important thing, where there's victims. And that's why the whole Epstein case and all these victims and stuff matters to me, and the Me Too movement and everything else. Because, and then I try to understand people like Epstein, how that, I like to, Epstein became a monster because he was unable to talk about the abuse that I think happened to him. And Trump became the monster because he never got past that abuse too. Not his was a different kind of abuse, but it was abuse, not the same. And we know from Fred Trump and everything else, the kind of person that he was. I don't know if you know, right? Fred Trump wasn't raised with a father, right? Fred Trump didn't know how to be a father, right? Fred Trump's father died when he was 8 years old. I don't know if you know that. So, and Fred Trump was raised by Trump's, grandmother, who didn't want her son to end up like her husband, which was a brothel and a drunkard and a whore. So can you imagine the shit Fred Trump went through, right? The abuse that that was given to him by his mother. His mother, it was Trump's grandmother, right, that established the Trump, business. She's the one who took the brothel money, came to New York and bought, slum apartments and everything else from all this, from her, her husband. So, it's really, and then she didn't want, she was probably very psychologically abusive to to Fred. And then Fred turned around, didn't know how to be a good father on that. I think it's important to understand the monster, right? Trump is a monster. Epstein was a monster. Understand how that monster came about, right? That's, I think. Hey, little chicks. Hey, little chicks. Hey, little chicks. Hey, little chicks. Oh, there's a little guy there. What are you doing? Hey, what are you doing? Hey, you want to say hi to me? Come here. Come here. Say hi. Come here. You want to come out of your box? Oh, I didn't mean you to jumping. Look at that little bugs there. Where's the other one? Why are you hiding? What are you doing? They're ducklings. This is the youngest. This is the youngest right here. This is the youngest. This is the oldest right here. The big mama one. This is the middle one right here. There they are. Say hi, look. Who's those? Look at that. They're 3 days old. 3 days. I hatched them. Why can't you eat this little, see this little? Yeah, they'll follow me around. They're still young. They're in their incubator. What are you doing? What are you doing? Look, they still sit on my hand. They're their mama. Oh, you guys gonna jump around? What are you doing? What are you guys gonna do? What are you guys gonna do? This is the babe. This one always wants to climb. This one wants to climb. Well, you're hungry. Why don't you eat those little flies there? You see those little flies running around? Go get it. Get the little flies. Look at the little fly. This one's little. What's wrong? Huh? A mosquito. These little bird. See that little guy right there? See the little guy right there? Why don't you eat that guy? All right, let's put you back. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. And this is a little home here. Look, I got this grow light in here. I've got this little water set up here, so I can just undo this here. And then I can actually refill this reservoir. I got a mesh. I'm glad I put that mesh net. So the top becomes a little reservoir. I can screw it back on. So this fills up with water. So they can drink here. There's a little, this is a mosquito lamp, right? And it's actually warm on top. They can sit up on it. It's on. I put the socks over, but it's actually warm. They love to get up on it right here. See, look, they're eating, this is duckweed. They're eating duckweed. I got that net so they don't fall in there. So they're little. I've got a pond outside with tons of duckweed, so they're eating the duckweed. Let's see, she's eating some duckweed. Look at that duckweed. This is where they love to get up on that thing there. Loves to sit. That's the thermometer end right there. Then usually I put food. They've been eating. That's the orange stuff. That's egg. She likes to get egg. It's got niacin. Look, they love to fight. They fight for that perch. They fight for that perch. It's like king of the hill perch over here. See, Prozac, you have a good day, brother. All right, there's little ducklings. Let's go. We'll get a little food for them. look, they've eaten all the egg and stuff. I've got this little mix. I made a scrambled egg. That box is bigger so they can grow. I've got this. So this is my baby formula mix. I've got shiitake mushrooms, everything. I've got salmon. All right, here I'll give you guys a camera view here. Let me put you guys in here. What are you seeing there? There you go. These guys are funny, watching them fucking fight for that thing up there. They're fighting. It's like always for the flip it around this way maybe. This is their box right now. This is their incubator. It's known as a. I just have paper on it. See, I've had it open. The temperature's dropped. I'm using this grow light. It gets warm. It heats up to about 32, which is good, right? On here, but this is their. They've got a water source right there with duckweed. You can see the duckweed. They'll go in there, eat that duckweed. It's actually. I just ate it. They really love duckweed. It's all upside down though. They can't really see it's there. Look, if I flip it over, it's bright green. They go crazy for it. See, it's all upside down. They can't see that it's duckweed. Flip it over. There was tons. I've got tons of it in my pond. So it's really cool that I have tons of it. They're green. So I'm gonna build a hutch for them at my house, my other house. They're gonna live at my when they get bigger. Should have 4. I killed one of them by mistake. I didn't have pebbles in here, and it was still young, and it got into the water, and it got too cold. That's why I developed this system here. At a different box. Shit, did they get all the worms? Look, they fight. They're always fighting for that spot. They love that spot, that little elevated spot. Look, oh, they're always fighting. King of the fucking. There's this guy's just like, look, he's trying to get up there. They want to be nestled together. It's warm. It's actually a mosquito heater. It's actually warm on top there. I put a couple socks. Look at them. They're just constantly trying to get that spot. Look at this. It's kind of funny. How you guys watching? What is this side here? Why am I not seeing it? Not too zoomed in. All right. Watching the 3S get 3. It's like Larry. I got that. Okay. I got this thing to stand up here. It's like this guy has a technique. He gets up under there. Now he's got the lead. Look. That's the big one. The one on top right there right now is the big one. Look, they want to sleep. Let's close it up. Let's close it up. It's cool. Let's close it up. Heat it up. Put the thing on here. Yeah, it's 27. They want to be in the 30s, so just by having the box open, it'll warms up. It'll get warmer. So that's why they're fighting for that spot. They want it in the 30s. The temperature you should have is like 30 to 33. So that's warm. It'll warm up on there. Larry Moe, Larry Moe and Curly. I think the youngest. Who was the youngest? Is that Curly? Curly is the youngest, I guess. Larry and Mo. Which was the bio? Was that Larry? Larry is the oldest. Yeah, Mo and Curly. Larry, Mo, and Curly. I go out to the garden and I get worms and shit for them. On there. All right, guys. I'm gonna call it. Good hanging out with you guys. I'll see you tomorrow. It's like not for a long time, dude. Not until they're about this tall. You know, probably it's about this tall when they get to this tall. And I got to build the coop right by the house. Or I did. This was a coop back here with the back area, but I removed the fencing and stuff that I had there. So see, it's already gone up to 27.9. Let's see, 28. You know, the only thing is that I leave the light on all the time. What I can do is rotate the light. Actually, I'm gonna rotate the light up. So I can rotate. I just rotate the light up so it's darker. They're not getting direct light now, so that's nighttime. But the heat is still there. So I use this little rotate daytime and nighttime. So now it's nighttime. All right, guys. I'm gonna go to bed. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Later. Good to see you, Fred.